Hey, everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here, another edition of Off the Top Rope. So, the ratings have come in. And what did I tell you guys last week? Congratulations to AEW. You finally beat NXT for the first time since they moved to CW. What happened this week? And I understand there's some extenuating circumstances with the Knicks Pacers, the incredible NBA playoff basketball game that happened opposite of Dynamite on coincidentally on a Turner net on a Warner Brothers Discovery network, which was very interesting in its own right. These, by the way, these are the last NBA games that TNT will ever air. So I understand that, and there's some people who are big Knicks fans, but in the day and age of multitasking and watching, there really isn't an excuse if you are really a diehard fan or if you're really able to get some interest in to not to have, the number that they got. Like, I understand. I think this is just, more of the status quo. Like, yeah, they got dominated by over 100,000 viewers. They did win the 18-49 because that's what the core of their audience is. But I look at what happened, and this is what I said. Like, and you guys can tell me that maybe I'm moving the goalposts a little bit, and to some degree I am. Good for AEW that they won 1 week, but how you're going to build momentum really and change the perception of how a lot of people feel about you is to do it on a consistent basis. And I understand that, like I said, there's some circumstances here with the Knicks going opposite, and that's just bad luck. Thunder, Minnesota, we're going opposite NXT. That wasn't as compelling of a matchup. Although that being said, it's a conference final. Like, the ratings were just way different in terms of what was going on. So we'll have to really have a test case. I'd have to look to see where the series is going to be next Tuesday and Wednesday, if they're going to actually switch locations or if it's still going to be the same thing. But to me, like, what this screams to me is the same thing that I've been saying since, before NXT went to CW. NXT, even in the state that it is right now, the women's division is fantastic. The rest of that show is dog shit. The rest of NXT is not good. Like, think about this for a second with NXT. The main match that they are selling for their premium live event on Sunday for Battleground is Joe Hendry defending the TNA World Heavyweight Championship against Trick Williams. That is the number one match on this card. That's how bad that NXT is. That's how bad that NXT has been right now. And yet NXT is still beating AEW. And again, like I said, some of this is related to the playoffs. But I think if it were normal circumstances, I think that NXT still would have won. I think last week was an outlier. It was an outlier. There was a world title match on that show. And like I said, NXT outside of that women's division is not very good right now. And Roxanne Perez is gone. Julia is gone. That being said, Stephanie Vaquera is just a joy to watch. You're going to have Jordan Grace, another former TNA star. By the way, back-to-back Battleground matches where she's challenging for the NXT Championship. How about that? That's a cool, neat little stat. But yeah, like I said, this feels like an opportunity for AEW to really capitalize and build on their momentum. And yes, you're in a bad situation where okay, you're opposite a compelling playoff matchup with a big time media market franchise in the Knicks going up against the Pacers, which is a very nostalgic rivalry. And a lot of AEW fans and a lot of just wrestling fans are probably New York Knicks fans. I get it. But that being said, if you had more compelling content, this wouldn't have been that bad of a landslide and this bad of a fall off. Because like I said, I don't think that if there were normal circumstances this would be close, but I don't think that whatever fell off because of what was going on with the NBA playoffs, I don't think that would have made up the difference to cover what was going on with NXT. And again, like I said, NXT is not a good product right now, at least in terms of outside of the women's division. For God's sake, God bless Miles Bourne. Wonderful story. Partially deaf guy, young guy, really great story, and really, really, neat little underdog thing that they're doing with Obafemi. Obafemi's going to beat him. That's the best that they got in the men's division right now. And again, the best match on that show is a TNA World Championship match. And AEW still can't beat that show. And what drives me insane is I will continue to point this out on social media to the AEW sickos about, okay, AEW can't beat the developmental program. And then they'll show me up graphics of the ages of Ricky Starks and Jordan Grace and Stephanie Vaquer and Ethan Page. And I'm like, that's really like what you guys are going to point the logic out of it being developmental. Let's just change that, by the way. If you guys want to get you guys want to get bogged down in specifics, NXT is the third show for WWE. It's their C show. Your A show can't beat their C show. To me, that is the and what were we talking about in the beginning of AEW? AEW was the reason why NXT had to reshuffle the deck. They were the reason why Black and Gold NXT got shut down and got reshuffled into this 2.0, whatever version you want to call it now. That version now, which, by the way, is probably at its weakest point under Shawn Michaels, because I think it's wonderful that their selling point is their women's division. That's wonderful. But also, you have to have a strong men's division, because that's also part of what a wrestling product is. If you want to frame it as a women's wrestling product, for God's sake, I think NXT could honestly do their own Evolution type special with how many talented women they have. But the men's division is just not it right now. And they had to bring back Joe Hendry to defend his TNA World title. And he may very well lose it in what could be a very, very significant moment. Because the only other non TNA contracted wrestler that has held that championship, at least that wasn't, at least seemingly contracted under TNA, was Kenny Omega. Think about that for a second. Trick Williams on Sunday could join Kenny Omega as an outsider holding that championship. That is wild. Wild that is even on the table. But that's the reflection of where NXT is as a promotion right now. But that being said, they're the C promotion. They perform in front of a performance center. So when I see Ricochet and all these people yelling at NXT because they had to move their show from Tampa on Tuesday back to the performance center, saying, you're going to perform in front of guys, it's the C show. They've got a bunch of people who are very inexperienced, a lot of, AEW outcasts who are in their best versions of themselves. But Ethan Page has got nothing left to do. Ricky Saints is just really window dressing until he needs to go to the main roster because they need him, because there's no other men in that division that even are worth the shit that they've built up. But yet AEW can't beat that promotion. They can't. And again, like I said, some of this is related to the playoffs, but I don't think that tells the entire story. A lot of these numbers were the same. They won the 18-49. That's their thing. And, hey, they probably lost a handful of viewers, but if that difference was made up, do you really think that AEW hasn't hit 700,000 I don't think they've hit 700,000 this year. NXT was at 697. You really think AEW without the Knicks in their way was going to get to 700,000? You think if the games were switched that this would be, it would probably be closer, but AEW was probably not going to make up that marginal of a difference in the first place. So again, what I say to AEW people is prove me wrong more than 1 week. Don't take one victory. Take it as momentum and keep building and make compelling stories and make compelling wrestling matches and cards that actually are worth a damn, so that will get your audience to watch that isn't just a sicko. That's been my point this entire time, because AEW used to be so good at this, so much so that they had to force this NXT to reshuffle and change how they did business. Had to reshuffle everything. And then here they are. They're getting beaten by it on a regular basis. Last week was an outlier. It was an outlier. And that's embarrassing when you think about what NXT really has. Their selling point is their women's division, which is as good as any in professional wrestling. But outside of that, there is nothing on NXT television that's really worth watching at this point. I'll probably watch Battleground because, like I said, I think that that bringing in Joe Hendry is pretty damn cool, and having that potentially main event an NXT and a WWE Premium Live event, that's freaking insane to think about. But still, it's not. If you're gonna just wave the flag for AEW and say, "Hey, we beat NXT, we finally beat them, we've accomplished something," do it more than 1 week, because you should be able to wipe the floor with these guys every single week. It's the C show. There's no really credible male competitors that are really there. Some of their top women have left and they're reshuffling the deck. And at some point, Jordan Grace or Stephanie Vicaire is not going to be there. There's no excuse. You should be beating this promotion every single week. And the fact that you're not is embarrassing. And until somebody in that building realizes this and stops taking these minor victories, Lavs, over being, we got paid $170 million. We hoodwinked David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery. Until you guys figure that out, why are you calling me the hater? Maybe try to make your product better, because the average person isn't watching it. They're not. They're watching NXT when it's not as good as it should be. But there's an excuse there. Hey, they're developmental. They're the C show. They're not measured up to what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be Dynamite is supposed to be the A show. That's supposed to be the number one show, the number one reason people tune into you weekly. And when you're putting out a shit product like that, nobody's going to watch. Look what happened. I understand that the Knicks were playing and the NBA playoffs were on, but still, that's not an excuse. NBA playoffs have been going on for 2 months now. Tell me when I'm telling lies, as CM Punk would say. A lot of you will probably tell me that I am telling lies, but I'm not. I'm not. So, anyway, thanks so much for watching, to all of you, even you AEW sickos who want to just kill me in the comments. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you subscribing. I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.